Hi there, my name is Laura Mickler, and I am the owner and a teacher here at Sacred Steps Yoga Studio, and I'm so glad that you found us. We are going to go over a little bit of how to launch a yoga practice from scratch. So you may be sitting on the couch, you may be somebody that did yoga a while ago and are just getting back into it, but hopefully this little video will help you understand that yoga is truly for everybody. So the first thing I want to talk about is exactly what I said, your yoga practice. So yoga is something that there are no trophies, there are no championships, you never win at yoga. It's just a constant practice that can change as your life changes. So maybe you have a baby or have an injury or you don't sleep well anymore. All of those things can affect your yoga practice. And so the idea is just to get on the mat in whatever state that you're in and make sure that that's happening for you. The next thing I want to go over is what even is yoga? We have a lot of misconceptions, especially on social media and things like that. Yoga is a 2,000-year-old practice. It's not a religion. It doesn't worship anything. We are just folks that get on the mat for, so let me back up. There are 8 limbs of traditional yoga, and I won't go through all of those, but some of the common ones that you will see in a yoga class, especially in the United States, are the movements or the poses, which are called asanas. We have breath work, which is pranayama, and then we also have some meditation in there too. So you will see these elements kind of commonly used throughout classes. So let's start with some of the basics. What do you even wear to a yoga class? So you can see that I am actually dressed very comfortably today. As I'm filming this video, it's a rainy day, and I just wanted to be comfortable. That's the goal of yoga. Some people prefer to practice yoga in flowy clothes. I prefer leggings myself and kind of a comfortable shirt. You can show up in your t-shirt and shorts. It's really up to you. As long as you're appropriate, most studios and places would love to have you. If you're at home, go crazy. You want to practice naked? Nobody's going to see you. So really it's all about your comfort and what you want to wear. You'll also notice that I'm not wearing shoes. Most of the time we practice yoga without shoes, unless maybe you're outside or in some place that you need to wear shoes. It's okay to leave your socks on. They make special yoga socks that are grippy, but most people prefer to practice barefoot. But I know that sometimes there are reasons that you don't want your feet to be out and about, so socks are completely fine as well. The other thing I wanted to go over is the actual flow of a yoga class. But before I do that, I want to show you some things that you may encounter in your yoga class. So these are known as props, and they're just items that we use, and if you don't have these at home, I'll kind of give you some ideas of what you can use instead of that. So the first thing I want to show you is a yoga block, and you may have seen these. They're very easy. I've seen them at Target, at TJ Maxx, they're everywhere. So these are just foam blocks most of the time. You can also see wood or cork, just kind of, again, depends on that material that the studio or teacher that you're with wants to use. So what we use these for is to give ourselves a little bit of a leg up. So for example, if you are folding yourself forward from standing and you're new to yoga, you may not be able to fully touch your toes, and that's okay. We bring in this block and it brings the floor another 8 inches closer for you. So you can use those to rest. We also use them to support our body in poses. So let's say that we are in something where one of our hips is kind of up in the air and floating, and that really feels uncomfortable. We can take that block and tuck it underneath. And the nice part about blocks, they have a really tall setting, a medium setting, and a super flat setting. So we can use those different ways throughout our practice. Another prop that we use, and this is probably my favorite, is a bolster. So this is basically a big stuffed pillow. It's the ones we have here are very firm. And again, we use this in the same way. We give your body support, especially if you're taking a restorative or a slower yoga class. You may use this to put your knees up over. I use a lot for hip support, shoulder support. Sometimes people just like to hug on them in Savasana. And so they are, and I'm going to explain what Savasana is, don't worry. So they are just very useful for a lot of different yoga uses. One other thing, and this is kind of self-explanatory, is a blanket. So a lot of times we will use a blanket, especially in some of the slower yoga classes. Your body will actually cool down, and you may find that you want a blanket at some point in time. We also use these lots of ways. We use them as a cushion. If you're, I'm sitting right now and I'm sitting flat, but maybe this isn't comfortable for you, you can sit on a blanket, kind of give yourself a little more cushion. We use them to roll up, and maybe the bolster is too big, so we'll use the blanket as a support. So again, lots of uses for a blanket. And then finally, and there are some other props that I'm not going to go over today, but these are kind of the 4 basic ones for me. And then we also have a yoga strap. So this is just a nylon or cotton strap that has it does have a buckle on the end. Some teachers use the buckles. I personally do not. And basically it just allows you to extend your stretch a little bit. So really quickly, I'll kind of show you here. So I have my legs out straight and I want to fold forward. Maybe my low back is really sore and that's as far as I can go if I just fold forward. But with the strap, I can bring that together and slowly walk myself a little bit deeper than I would go otherwise. So we use our straps a lot to support big openings that we have, really to stretch ourselves. Maybe you're reaching behind and you can't reach behind. The strap will give you that extra length that you need there. So what can you use instead of these things if you don't have them? Because it is kind of expensive to get started with all of the props. It's definitely not expensive to get started, but if you want to have all of these things in your home. So a block, you can use a thick book or a box if you have something maybe that's wooden that you can use in this way. But I recommend the foam blocks. You can get them for probably about $5 if you look for them different places. A yoga strap, you can use a belt or a scarf that you have. It's going to be, just kind of dependent on how long that is. You want it to be as long as possible, but definitely, again, can get a yoga strap for fairly inexpensively. The blanket, I hope, is pretty self-explanatory. You can use any blanket that you have. You'll see a lot of yoga studios will have these Mexican type of blankets, and so we just kind of like those in yoga studios. And then the bolster, you can use a pillow or a couple of pillows to kind of get the same effect for you. So those are the props. And then I wanted to explain a couple of terms. So again, I guess this really goes into the flow of yoga class. And different teachers may switch it up a little bit or have kind of a special flair that they put onto their yoga classes. But basically, there's going to be 5 parts to a yoga class that you're going to experience. So when you first come into the class, the teacher is going to have you center. Bring yourself into the room. Attempt to block out anything else that's bothering you, kind of all of those, relax, be here, be now kind of things. And so the centering can be done a lot of different ways. I tend to do mine laying down for my students. I've also done them where you're sitting upright and just kind of close your eyes and come into that space. I've also seen people do it standing. So if you're getting ready for kind of a powerful flow class, you may want to bring yourself into that room, come into your power standing. So it just depends on the teacher and kind of what they have planned for that particular class. The second part is usually going to be some sort of breathing exercise. So that pranayama that we talked about, and I did not mention, but a lot of yoga terms are in the Sanskrit language. So you may hear kind of people use them interchangeably. Where we live, there's not a lot of folks that are familiar with the Sanskrit, so I tend to use the English terms, but you'll hear kind of people use them interchangeably. So that breath work is just going to be some guided breathing exercises, and depending on the class, depending on the teacher, that's how you'll kind of determine what those are. The third part is going to be the actual poses and postures. So when we talk about our movement, and you'll hear people call them different things, postures, poses, shapes, asanas is the Sanskrit word for those, but it's basically the movements that we are getting our body into. And if you're taking a slower yin or restorative type of class, you're going to get into that posture and you're going to hold it. Whereas in some of our more flow classes, we may be kind of moving throughout different postures. Okay? So then the final part of this is what we call savasana, and that is our final resting pose. And it can be the hardest part of yoga class because class is almost over. I'm starting to think about what I need to make for dinner. Oh my gosh, did I lock my car? Like that's when your monkey mind brain starts to kick in and maybe doesn't let you relax as much. So personally, I like to do a little reading, just some sort of inspirational reading that I have found that week. And that's what I want to share before we get into savasana. So you get kind of your choice to lay, to relax however you want to for the last few minutes of class. So it's personally my favorite part, but you can also, it can also be tricky. So don't go into it thinking this is not my favorite part. That's okay. And so I wanted to finish up our little video here today, and hopefully my camera skills will be all right, but I wanted to show you a couple of very common postures that you will see in a yoga class. And I'm going to do about 5 of these. There are literally hundreds, but these are some that you will see very frequently. So I'm going to start on my hands and knees. And some of these you may see in other types of fitness classes, but they are definitely yoga poses. So when we come and our back is flat just like this is called tabletop pose. And what we're going to do from here is come into a cat-cow stretch. So in this, we're going to drop our belly like a big old cow. Our heart shines forward, and we're really stretching our spine. And then we're going to reverse that, round our spine, peek back at our belly button, and that's how we come into our cat. So think about a cat that gets startled on a fence. That's the posture that we're making there. From here, it's a kind of a yoga cliche about a child's pose, and a lot of teachers will say child's pose is always available to you, and that is correct. If at any point in a yoga class you're just not feeling it, feel free to drop down into this child's pose, and this is something that you can easily do at home with no props. So I'm on my knees, and we're basically just going to sit our hips back over our heels and reach our torso forward. And depending on how flexible you are, you may kind of hover like this, or you may drop yourself all the way down and have your forehead on the mat. So that is our child's pose. I'm going to stand up for this, and hopefully you can see me okay. Yeah, I think we'll be good. So another part, and this is going to be some little videos that we'll have on TikTok and YouTube, so if you want to check that out, we'll go a little bit more in depth to it. But a lot of classes will have what's called a warrior pose. So warrior pose, there's 3 different. There's warrior 1, warrior 2, and warrior 3. And warrior 2 is the most common, weirdly. But what warrior 2 is we're going to put that knee going forward, front knee going forward, and you usually do it on both sides so you feel evened out. And then this back foot is going to come straight with the back of your mat. This foot's going to be straight with the side of your mat. And then we just extend our arms straight here. So this is a warrior 2. This is a very powerful pose. It helps stretch lots of different areas of our body. And then a warrior flow is just something like they'll bring you into, just moving your arms through these different yoga poses, but that is known as a warrior flow. And like I said, we don't have enough time to go through every single pose, but the most important that I really love is the final pose for Savasana, which is called, weirdly, corpse pose. So you are just going to lay yourself completely flat on the mat. And this is where we want to be for our Savasana. And you can switch this up a little bit. Maybe it hurts your low back to lay completely flat. You can bring in that bolster and tuck it under your knees. So there's lots of different options for you to relax. So I hope that this has been helpful for you to launch your yoga practice. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you have. But most of all, I hope that you'll just give it a try. Step onto your mat. Even if it's a borrowed mat, even if it's a $3 mat that you found on clearance, all yoga is yoga. Have a great day.